to my channel. I'm so excited because today is video number 2 in my new school series. If you are brand new here, my name's Shelly. I'm a 6th grade teacher in Northern California, and I have some classroom setup tips for you today. So if you need some guidance on how to best set up your classroom, go ahead and keep on watching. Alright, so this video is for my brand new teachers. You're about to get your very first classroom, or maybe even you have been teaching for a while and you are just ready to kind of revamp your space so it's the most functional, practical, maybe pretty, maybe not for you. So I have some tips for you today that's gonna make this process as seamless as possible. Now, I do have a couple of disclaimers. There is obviously 150 different ways to go about setting up your classroom. This is just what I have found really worked for me. This will be my 4th year teaching, in the very first year that I do not have to start in a completely brand new classroom. So I've had 3 years of starting from scratch, but I do have a lot of experience in the classroom setup categories. Now, I have 10 tips for you today. So they are tips, however, they're kind of more like the order that I would set up my classroom. Then with each of them, I will give you some specific tips. Hopefully that makes sense, but if not, we'll roll with it and you'll figure it out. So before I get started, if you have not already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this series. I'm telling you, if you're a new teacher, this will be really, really helpful to you. These are the kind of videos that I wish were created when I was starting to teach. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you go follow me on Instagram. It's just @earlyadventures. I would love to have you. Okay, so we're just gonna jump right in. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I love any and everything classroom setup. Me personally, I really like a very clean, organized, functional space. That for me is the foundation of a solid year. So the very first tip that I have for you is probably the most important one and the hardest one to follow, especially if you're a brand new teacher. And that is, do not buy anything for your classroom until you've seen the space. I mean, honestly, probably not even a bin. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I made as a first year teacher. You do not know what's already gonna be provided for you. You might not need to get any furniture. Everything might be provided for you. You also don't know the layout of your room. You don't know anything. So really, really try to refrain from buying things before you see your space. And I know how hard that is. Trust me, I get it. But if you can, refrain from buying anything until you see your space. Once you get in there, you kind of get a vibe for how things are laid out, things that you might need, then you can start shopping around a little bit. Tip number 2 is extremely important as well, and this is something that I had no idea going into my first year of teaching. And that is, before you buy anything, figure out how much money, if any, your PTA or your school will provide you with classroom supplies. So for example, at my old site, we were allotted like $400 in classroom expenses. And had I known that I had a certain amount that I could spend and get reimbursed, I probably would have spent my money a little bit differently. So before you start going and making these big purchases, wait, talk to your principal, talk to your PTA, figure out if there is any money allotted for you to be able to spend in your classroom. And then if you are allotted money, make sure that you're keeping your receipts. That is the only way that they're gonna be able to reimburse you. So once you figure it out, go shopping, keep those receipts. Those are the 2 big ones that I wish I would have known before I started teaching and setting up my very first classroom. So the rest of these, I'm going to kind of lay out for you the order that I would go about setting up your classroom. Again, after doing this for 3 years, I've kind of figured out the best way to roll it out. That way you're saving yourself time and you're not spending like literal weeks in your classroom before the first day of school. So tip number 3 would be to start with the layout of your classroom. I know you want to throw things up on the wall. I know you want to start decorating. However, I'm telling you, before you get any of that, make sure you have your layout finalized, because I've made the mistake of throwing things up on the wall and then I totally want to switch where I'm going to teach. So finalize the layout first. And so what I mean by layout is, where do you want your teacher desk? Do you want a teacher desk? Do you want your kids in groups? Do you want them in rows? Situate the desks if you can. Make sure that all the kids can see what you need them to see. I literally go and stand behind every desk to make sure that they can see. So once you have your layout finalized, then you can take a step back and really see, is there anything else that I need? Do I need to purchase bookcases? Do I need to get some sort of organization system, right? So once you have all the furniture that's provided to you laid out, then you can move forward and figure out other things that you might need to supplement the space. So tip number 4 would be organizing your library. After I have my layout set up, I like to tackle my library next because it is the most daunting thing, especially if you're brand new. So tips for this is figure out how you want to organize your books, ways that I've done it in the past. I've done it by genre. Didn't love that because kids would just throw things back in the bins. The way that I'm doing it now in 6th grade is alphabetically by the author's last name. Now I do have 12-year-olds, so they're more than capable of putting things back where they belong. I've also seen teachers do it based on reading level. So figure out how you want to organize your library, and once you figure that out, then you can get the bins that you need to store all of your books. If you even want to use bins, maybe you don't want to use bins, but I'm telling you, the library is a very daunting, time-consuming task. So once you have your layout, get your library done so it's out of the way, and there's books everywhere when you first move into your room, so it's just like that much more space that's decluttered. That kind of helps ease your mind. So if I were you, I'd move right onto my library. So the next thing I do, tip 5, would be to move on to your supplies. Figure out, based on the space that you have, what's gonna be the best way for you to organize your supplies. Do you need bins? Do you need cups? Are you gonna have table caddies? Are you gonna have shareable supplies? So figure out how you wanna store those supplies and get that in place. I will link somewhere up here and also down below. I have an entire video on different organization tips and tricks, so I will leave that down below. Make sure you check it out if you need help. But supplies is a big one because chances are you're gonna have a lot given to you by your school. And again, once you see what they've given you, you can go out and purchase the things that you think that you might need. So specific tips for organizing supplies, I like to separate them into piles first. So I will do like all of my kids' supplies in one pile. I will do all of my teacher supplies, so things for my desk plus my curriculum. And then I will do another pile with like all of my manipulatives, right? So once I see everything that I have right in front of me, then I can kind of start to like separate them and figure out exactly how many bins that I need. Because I'm telling you, the biggest mistake I made is I went to Dollar Tree and I just bought 100 million gajillion bins, and then I only needed like 6 of one, right? So once you do this, you can kind of get a better picture of what exactly you're gonna need. All right, so we've done our layout, we've done our supplies, we've done our library. The next space that I would recommend for you, so tip number 6, is to figure out how you want your teacher space to function and how you want to organize it. So let's talk teacher space, because this is something that I have not perfected for me. Everybody's teacher space is gonna look different. You have to figure out what's gonna function for you. And chances are, if you're a first-year teacher, you don't even know what that is yet. So just be flexible. You can change things throughout the year, but at least have it dialed for first day of school. So I've had a teacher desk my first 3 years, and this year I'm scrapping it. I just want a small group table because that's where I spend all of my time anyway. I very, very rarely actually sit at my teacher desk, like ever. I don't really keep anything in it. So for me personally, I know that that's not gonna work. If I was setting up this space, I would clear it all completely off and start putting some of my personal supplies in my desk or in my area. Do I need to buy a separate little cart to house some supplies? This is also when I would do some of my personal stuff. So like my coffee maker, maybe I would put my pictures up on my desk and things like that. For some reason, once I have that space like done, I can just forget about it. And to be honest, for me, it's not like the most fun space to set up, so I like to get it over with. All right, so now we kind of have the nitty gritty done. So the 7th step that I would say, or tip that I would give you, is from here, really start to think about and be deliberate on how you want to set things up for daily routines. So when I say daily routines, I mean things like taking attendance. Do you want to have a spot for your folder? Do you have a lunch bin? Where are you gonna have your lunch bin? How are you gonna have kids turning in papers, passing back papers? Do the kids have mailboxes? Are you gonna do a morning meeting? Is there gonna be a behavior chart? Or are you gonna have reading groups, right? So thinking about your daily routines, and personally what I do is I write all of this out on my whiteboard as far as my routines go, and I just set it up and I check it off, set it up, check it off. I'm telling you, once you have these designated spaces and everything organized for these routines, it makes the first day of school so much less stressful, I promise you. Okay, so now we kind of get into the fun part of setting up a classroom. Now, huge disclaimer here. Not every teacher is going to want to decorate and make this beautifully themed, colored classroom, and that is okay. Just because a classroom is beautiful doesn't make you a good teacher. The flip side to that is, if you want to spend the time decorating and making your classroom beautiful, go ahead. Don't let any teacher tell you you're a bad teacher for wanting to make your space welcoming and beautiful. Everyone's different, everyone functions differently. Me personally, I like to walk into a room that's aesthetically pleasing and calming. That's just me. That doesn't make me any better than the teacher that might have nothing but a poster on the wall. If this next chunk applies to you, great. If it doesn't, don't listen to me. I'm just one person, and I'm giving you some advice or tips that might help you along the way. Okay, that being said, let's move in to what I think is the most fun part, but also the most time-consuming part of setting up your classroom. And that is setting up your wall space and making it beautiful. So after I have all of those other areas set up, the next thing that I will do is I will designate certain walls for certain things. The biggest tip I can give you here is before you put anything on the wall, map out your room and figure out what you want each wall to be used for. I'm telling you this from experience. I've set up entire bulletin boards and then been like, no, that's not gonna work. So piece of paper on your whiteboard, I don't care where you do it, map out your room and designate your wall space. Another really big tip is find out from your principal or another teacher, do you have to have any mandatory bulletin boards? So like my first year of teaching, I taught at an IB school and I had to have something called a Wonder Wall. I didn't know that. So I started setting up my classroom and then I had to take things down, move it around, figure out where to put this wall. Okay, so ask your admin, do you have to have any mandatory things up in your room? Start there, designate a wall for it, and then you can look around and see what else you have room for. Figure out what's gonna work for you. What do you wanna have up on your wall? Do you wanna have a space to hang student work? Do you wanna have a big area for anchor charts? That's what I like to do. Do you wanna have a birthday chart? You need to have a word wall. Do you want to have a rotation board? So figure out, there's 100 different bulletin boards that you could use. In fact, if you have some of your favorites, link them down below, help us out. So figure out what wall space you're working with and then designate before you do anything else. So step 9 would be the decorating. This is optional, like I mentioned, but if you are somebody that wants to decorate your classroom, I'm telling you from experience, leave it until the end. It's the first thing that I wanted to do when I stepped foot in that room. I wanted to hang borders and I wanted to hang posters, and I'm telling you, refrain until you get all the other foundations in place. But if you do want to decorate and you've made it this far, I have some tips for you. So the first one would be start with the walls. Get your bulletin boards done, do the bases, do the borders, because then you can step back and kind of start to see what else is gonna look good. Some small decoration things that you can do that I think really kind of take the space to the next level are lights. You can get really cheap, like the little tea lights on Amazon, and I like to string them around my board. Super easy, and it just makes the space a little bit more fun. If you watched my classroom 2 years ago, I took bulletin board paper and I covered an entire wall with wood paper, and it totally changed the vibe of my classroom. I like to have alphabet posters up in my room no matter what grade I teach. Choosing a theme might be something that you want to do. So for me personally, I've done a blue and green theme since I started teaching. So I'll get blue and green bins and blue and green accents and things like that. So that's something else that you could consider while decorating. And then another big tip for this is go over to Teachers Pay Teachers and see if there's any posters or fun things that you want to include in your classroom. So don't get overwhelmed by the decorating. If it's not your speed, I get it. But some of us love it and we want to do it. So I'm telling you, wait till the end if that's you. My last tip, tip 10, would be after all the other things are done, then go around and fine tune. So what do I mean by fine tune? Again, completely optional. However, what I mean is this is when I would do my labeling, my name tags, and like stocking supplies. So I really like my stuff labeled. And again, it will really benefit you to wait till the end. For example, I had that Michael's rolling cart and I labeled it how I thought I wanted it to be done over summer. And then once I got into my classroom and I saw what I actually had, I had to completely relabel everything. So I save stuff like this for the very, very end. Once everything is pretty much done and put away, I will go back and label. This is also when I would do student name tags. I usually wait till like the day before to do name tags because your roster is always changing. I don't even do name tags anymore, but these are the little details that I'm saying wait till the very, very, very end to do. Otherwise, you're gonna be redoing them over and over and over again. Okay, I'm gonna end this there. I could talk about setting up classrooms probably for 2 hours because I just love doing it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I'll do my best to get them answered. Also, if you have any other tips for friends out there on YouTube about setting up your classroom, link them down below. I'll have a couple videos linked at the end that I think will be helpful for you. I have filmed 3 years of setting up my classroom, so you can go back and check out all those videos. I think that's probably gonna be the most helpful thing for you to do, honestly. But I hope you found this somewhat helpful. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the little bell so you don't miss the next video. I love you guys so much. Congratulations if you're a new teacher. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.